Okay. As you can see, I've started to take the foam boards and glue them up onto the iron armature. The thing about using pipe as an armature is those joints have to be really, really tight. That means you're going to need these. The problem is, if you're trying to figure out what the armature is supposed to look like, you're putting the pieces together and adjusting it, and you don't want them real tight because you want to be able to move the arms and legs and torso around. So they've got to be tight enough to stay put, but not so tight that you can't undo them and adjust them. Once you get the pipes in place and you're happy with it, you've got to make that final decision. You're then going to have to mark those pieces of pipe in such a way that you can take the whole thing apart and start at one end and start reassembling it and really wrenching down those connections with the wrenches. Get them real tight. And then put the armature back together again the way you liked it in the first place. The armature itself is heavy. This is supposed to be a light piece of sculpture. The armature will be the heaviest part of it, and it's going to be cantilevered. So these connections have to be strong enough so that the weight of the armature itself doesn't drag it over on the one connection that's at the base. Now, as you see here, what I've done, rather than attach the pole that supports the sculpture with a floor flange, which would then fix that position, I drilled a hole through this piece of plywood. There's another piece of plywood about a foot down with a hole drilled through it, and a piece of wood underneath that, so that thing doesn't just fall through and the pipe just sits in there, and it can turn around, and this can serve as a turntable, as you can see. What I did was take pieces of the foam board and essentially box in the elements of the armature. And if you look at this leg, you can see that the armature post here is not on the same plane as the one going down here. A leg can't actually do what this leg is doing. It doesn't bend from the knee. It only bends one way from the knee, not like that. What I'm planning on doing is adding mass here and here and here, so that the armature might be at a peculiar position that the leg could never take. But that position will be inside of the masses of the leg. It doesn't really matter where the armature is, so long as it's inside there somewhere. A leg sticking out. It could be within like half an inch or 3/4 of an inch of the top of the leg, or the armature bar, or at the bottom. Just so long as it's in there, it doesn't have any real relationship to the structure it's holding up. So long as it's someplace. And again, those relationships don't have to be skeletal. They don't have to match up to what a human. And I'm just going to keep adding and adding. I'm going to have to stick something up here to support the arms, because they're going to be sticking out, I know that much. And as you would have seen earlier, there's a T and two nipples sticking out this way, so some kind of metal, or even wood, I suppose, interior armature structure is going to be poking out of there. And I may have to cut some of this back, but that's a nice thing about it. You know, you've committed nothing but a couple of dollars worth of material. Build it, you don't like it, cut it apart, put it back together again. But ultimately, the point is here to get so much material on there that the bulk of the sculpture can be done simply by carving away. I want enough material on here, and for all of it, head, arms that aren't here, all of it, that with a saw I will be able to get essentially finished surfaces with no other step, except for there will be some final surfacing, but I want that to be like a skin. Basically, I just want to see how this is going to look. But what I do know is I can't add a whole lot of plaster to this, because because the object is cantilevered, and it could end up pulling the base over too, unless I put a cinder block in the bottom, and now we got a headache. And why do that if we don't have to? This is a freestanding structure. It's got gravity to contend with, whereas the pieces that were built on boards, old doors and things, they're hanging on the wall. Gravity is less of an issue because you can really bolt things down. Here, all that weight's got to fall within that footprint, where some dog or kid or somebody doesn't come rushing along and knock the thing over. And I'm pleased with how we're going so far.